Most people blow their budget on the remodeling project, not because they're careless, but they just don't know what to expect. Today we're going to talk about what to expect to protect your budget while you're doing a remodel. So the first step to be able to have a clear budget and have it properly planned out for this project or the project you're going to be doing is one, start with the end in mind. This looks like knowing why you're doing the remodel. If you're doing it so that you can either one, have more space, two, have a higher resale value, three, just updating the style. Those are three kind of things you can be doing. Another thing you can do is have a clear end in mind for what you're going to be doing. This looks like having like a picture. I always tell my clients, give me a picture of what you're trying to do. A pro tip for me to you, don't start buying material until you have everything locked down. You see it all the time. Somebody starts buying fixtures here or fixtures there. They don't match. You end up mismatching. And you lose money that way. So, little pro tip. So the next thing I want to talk about is to break the budget. The second thing we're going to talk about is break your budget into categories. What this looks like is knowing what your different costs are going to be. For example, your labor is typically 40 to 50% of where your expenses are going to go. Materials are going to be in your 30 to 40%. Permits and inspections, 5%, and I typically want to have a contingency of 10 to 15%. So the reason I want to have such a high contingency, that 10 to 15%, is there's always stuff that pops up. It can be not having enough material to finish out what you're trying to do. It can be, it's just better to have that instead of when you get down to it and start panicking. So always have contingency. So the third thing that we need to talk about when you're trying to keep your budget there is get real numbers, not estimates. When you're talking to contractors suppliers, and people in the trades, have like a finalized number. And it's great to have like online calculations, like using ChatGPT to estimate it, but I found that it doesn't really like encapsulate exactly what the costs are going to be, and if you go off of that, you can be way off. Something to be aware of when you're doing this is the hidden fees, and you just have to be careful and make sure you have money set aside for this. For example, the last couple of jobs, some hidden fees would be the dumpster costs. That's something that it's hard to keep track of. Or there's a job where we took all the cabinets out, so we ended up having to buy, while we waited for countertops, we had to buy some butcher blocks so that at least they had a working kitchen and a sink that we dropped into the kitchen sink. That's something. Then you also have costs that jump. I had a project we bidded to put HVAC system in, like a mini split system in. From the time that we had bidded it to the time we started the project, they discontinued the product we had selected, and they jumped up on the expenses or the cost of something else. So make sure you keep yourself safe for hidden fees. So we're on the fifth point. What you want to do with this next one, it is prioritize spending. So there's certain things that you can do now and certain things you can do later on. For example, if you're getting towards the end of your project and you're losing money and you don't know where you can save it, a couple of examples of how I've done that personally in my life is instead of buying high-end finishes for my personal projects, you can just get $50 kit from Amazon instead of the $400 kit for the cover plates, because there's a universal. Another example would be light fixtures. I know for a fact you can go to IKEA and buy a light, some call it a boob light. You can buy one for like $6. So I've seen people spend as much as $400 on that same light, $500 on that same light. So if you're in the middle of you're getting towards the end of the project, you're trying to save expenses, that's another place. Another one that I just barely burned myself on this last project is I typically buy my light fixtures, like the can lights that go up in the ceiling. I buy those from Amazon. I find that they're great. They're high quality, and I haven't had an issue with a single one. I was down to this project. We'd already used up my emergency of what I have in my trailer emergency, but what I just have on hand, 30 of them, and got down, there was 33 that I needed. So I miscounted, and I went to Home Depot, and I bought the same light. Normally they're $7 a light. It were $15, so I ended up spending an extra $50, which wasn't super fun. But there you go, another thing you can do. So in closing, the budget of a project is not something you need to be stressing about. You don't need to be pinching every penny. You can plan accordingly and it can go smoothly. It can be the highlight of your project when you end up you finish out your thing and you've saved yourself thousands of dollars. So if this is something that you're interested in or something that you have on your mind, go ahead and book a call with me. We can look at it and see what we need to do so that way your next remodel ends up being a great success. Please subscribe to my channel, like it, comment. It would really help it out. Thanks. Bye.